What's up, guys? Scummy Unplugged. We're back with my favorite couple, my favorite married couple, Jennifer Gimenez / Ryan.
Yes.
Tim Ryan. What's up, guys?
What's up, Scummy?
Hi,
We're back.
Scummy.
We're back, man. This is awesome.
So good to be here. It's so good to be here married. That's so crazy to
Kind
say.
of cool.
That's why I feel like we had to have you guys back. All the things you guys are doing. You just got married. You're just turned 14 years sobriety. What, last week?
Last Wednesday, January 15th.
Congratulations.
Thank
times a million. I mean, I don't know where did we dive in first? I think 14 years. Like, how did you do that? We're at Recovery Today magazine.
I know, it's so crazy. Thank you for having us on, and it's so
Yes.
good to see you. I love you so much. We love you so much. Turning 14, I woke up that morning, Wednesday morning, and I just started crying. I'm getting emotional. I've come a long way from that girl in the psych ward, that tried to hang herself. And I just cried, and I thought I was going to go into this deep depression because I suffer from depression. And Tim literally having my partner with me and just like pulling me out did not allow me to go into it. But I was just like, wow, like I viewed my recovery so differently that day. And it's kind of hit me, and it's kind of getting me emotional. Here I go with my emotional roller coaster. Because I get it, no matter what, hang on, I'm so grateful, recovery comes first, all this stuff, But after a while, I realized that I need to treat my recovery like a delicate flower, that can, it was like kind of, I don't even know how to translate what I'm trying to express, except that there needs to be a layer of fragileness around it.
A jewelry box.
Yeah, very
like a
delicate.
jewelry box.
Because I have all the other things programmed, but I think that it was that delicateness that was missing recently. And, through trials and tribulations, every year is a new experience. Every day is a new experience. Every moment sometimes is a new experience. And I was missing that. And it took me a few hours of talking with Tim and realizing, I'm really happy in my life. It's so much better than it ever was. I have all these amazing, incredible things. I have a partner in my life.
You have a husband. You have a husband in your life.
And I've been saying this the last week. I wake up every morning and I literally wake up to this, and I'm not lying. Jen, I love you so much, my wife. I'm so lucky and grateful to wake up next to you every morning. And he hugs me and kisses me. I'm not the nicest in the morning.
That's
and
amazing.
to have that every morning is so beautiful. And I feel like my life is complete now. I'm not doing this alone, and I've been doing this journey for, I'm in my 40s. So I've been doing this for a long time alone, even though I've never been fully alone, if that makes sense.
Was it like that in past, like when you turned 13? Was it rougher?
13 for me was the year. So 5, I popped, right?
Yeah.
1, I came out of a coma. 5, I popped. And everyone's like, oh, your head pops out of your ass. For me, it was like I started all the fuck over, excuse my language, but I really did. And no one warned me that I literally was going to start real recovery for myself. And I had never been anywhere without someone sober with me for 5 years. 7 was that lucky 7. It's magical. There's facts on that. 7 is a very magical number. 10, I started going back to deep therapy, intense therapy. I'm surprised I didn't have a nervous breakdown or blow my head off. 12 to 13, when I turned 13, I remember just being like, oh my God, I made it through. Because that December 2018, I wanted to jump off a 3rd floor story because I was like, what's the point? And it was the first time I literally thought about killing myself in over 13 years since that day in the psych ward, and the only time I thought about it. And I caught myself and I got on my knees and I was like, God, just give me an answer, show me the sign. I'm always still playing with God, on that. Yeah. And in comes Tim Ryan into my life. And for me this year was there needs to be a cherishedness, delicate, fragile thing. And my dreams are wild and amazing, and I'm grateful and I'm blessed, and I don't forget that girl in that psych ward.
I think it's amazing, and it's a great story. Even though you get sober, you still have to put the work in. 10 years, and you're still dealing with stuff.
Yeah, I mean, 10 was dark. And I remember this old timer one time. I was around 8 years sober. I came and I did an interview in LA, and he had 35 years. Great guy. And he was like, how you doing? I was like, I'm just bitter. I'm bitter. And he's like, bad place to be. He's like, if you get to 10 and you don't blow your brains out or drink, you're lucky. Really? And I held on to that. I forgot about it, and then I remember I started getting more, like at 9, I was just like really uncomfortable, and I was in a bad relationship. I was in a job, work wasn't, I loved doing what I was doing, but I wasn't growing. I was just like, and I realized I needed to go back into therapy. And I hadn't gone to therapy for about 1.5 years. And I had more shit came out, you know? I mean, it's a constant evolution of dealing and traumas and things coming out always. You know, life is not grand, and, you know, I don't float on air and, you know, like walk on water because I'm sober.
Happens.
Life is real, and it's real.
Well, you know, that's the thing, too. People see through social media this, that, and the other. Oh, your life's great. Life is life. We all have trials and tribulations, and getting sober is absolutely awesome. And in the 12 steps or whatever you use, that's just the foundation. But if you need therapy or this and the balance, I mean, Jen and I, when we met, it was instant love, and I'm so blessed that God put her into my life.
How did you guys meet?
Here we go.
We talked about it last
I'm
time.
going to give you, about a year ago, little over, I speaking in high schools and colleges and corporations, but when I had a 16-year-old girl in a high school coming up to me talking about trauma, I'm like, yeah, I'm not the guy. So I wanted to find a female to partner with. And I had been following Jen for a few years, so I finally messaged her. We started talking. I was supposed to go to Florida the next week and meet her on business. I went there, but I blew her off. And she's like, hey, jerk, thanks for blowing me off. I'm giving you the expedited A version. So we started talking. We talked for about 3 weeks, and it was all business. She thought I lived in Wisconsin. She didn't know I was going through divorce. She didn't know I had kids. It was literally business.
We talked only about business.
Yeah.
And that was
weeks
it.
into it.
And then I flew down to Florida. Actually, she's like, you know, put your money where your mouth is. Everybody
Because he
talks.
kept saying, oh, I'm going to schedule when I can come in. And we had now been talking for quite some weeks, you know, about work and what could happen. And he's like, let me schedule. And I'm like, you know what? Put your money where your mouth is. Like, I'm so tired of the BS
At the end of
talk.
that phone call, right before I hung up, I said, check your text message. I'll see you Friday. And I hung up. Well, while we were talking, I bought a ticket to Florida. So I flew in that Friday, and Jen picked me up at Fort Lauderdale Airport. And when she got out of the car, go ahead and love at first sight.
It was love at first sight. So I believed love at first sight happened for you and you and you, but I thought all the X's accumulated to that one for me. I see him, I get out of the car, and it was like underneath your belly button, I feel it's like where your spirit, it was like there was like this like rope that connected me to him. It was weird. It's like this magnet happened, and I just hugged him and I gave him a kiss on the cheek, and it was over.
It was it.
Wow.
But we weren't like, oh, it's over, but we knew, like, you know when you know.
In the
a
last
love story.
thing, the last thing I was looking for was a relationship. God works in weird ways, and I never knew what true love was until Jen walked into my life. I never knew. And I'm happier than I've ever been, and she's phenomenal to my children, and you know, we're best friends. We laugh together, we work together, we live together, we travel together. But what we're trying to find out is a little bit of balance, because literally in the past year, we have not been in one location longer than 2 weeks. LA is now home, and we're going to actually be here longer than 2 weeks, I think.
This trip, hopefully.
But it's good, and you know, now we're...
But so I'm
You
sorry
guys
to
are a
interrupt.
power couple. I see you guys doing, and that's a cool thing. You guys are spreading this word on sobriety. You guys it seems like you're at a different school every week. Or
Yeah,
is that what you guys are mainly doing now?
Well, okay, so we've been speaking a lot, and we've been speaking at corporations, schools, colleges.
So cool to see.
I did this thing this weekend with Tara Connor, former Miss USA, and the husbands came, her husband and Tim came, and it was a beauty thing, but we talked about sobriety. So, like, and he has events, so, like, we're going to everything, you know?
Yeah, we just got booked this morning. We're doing a big hospital in Houston, Texas. They're having a big conference. In May, we're speaking to 800 doctors. We got a lot of cool things going on.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's really exciting what's going on that. And, like, just to reiterate on the thing of the love at first sight, you know, Tim had said, you know, I could see, you know, are you interested in doing this and this and this? And I was like, yeah. And honestly, like, he's the first man to walk his talk with me, you know, and, like, everything he talked about and ideas and visions and promises, he's walked his talk. And, you know, it's been such a blessing to to know I have a partner, to know that I'm an equal to someone, you know, and being a woman, you know, and I don't want to be like, oh, you know, women's rights and stuff. It doesn't matter how much of a platform I have and other women have, like we still, you know, it's a man's world, you know, and it is, and it's okay. I'm very grateful for who I am as a woman. I'm grateful. I love women and men and in our community, in our recovery community, but to have somebody fight for my rights, you know, as, you know, equal, you know, is
match.
so beautiful.
You know what's cool though? There's some, like the Butte, we're at this massive, in Pomona at the fairgrounds, this massive BlushCon beauty event. Thousands, tens of thousands of people. And her and Tara spoke on, you know, health and wellness and sobriety to the millennials. But it's kind of cool to take a back seat and support my wife. Thursday, you're doing something else. And
I did a TED Talk.
yeah, she did a
My
TEDx
first-
talk.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was
Jennifer
really
Gimenez,
cool.
How did that go?
TEDx Naperville.
So that was an interesting, it was one of the most, it was probably the most important thing I've ever done and the most accomplished I've ever felt.
amazing.
Tim, I can only talk to him as, I can only address him as Mr. Director, boss, sir. He was my director along with the creator, and the format kept changing, and I had known about it. I mean, I worked hundreds and hundreds of hours,
Hundreds
but the
of
last
hours.
week alone, they changed the whole format. I went to quit because I was like, I'm not going to look like a fool. And they kept saying, you're 80% done, but I didn't have anything memorized. And finally, they changed the concept a week before. And I went over there. Flew to Chicago with him. I'm like, I'm quitting, you know, like, I'm not going to look like an ass. And I get there and I'm like, hey, creator Arthur, I'm quitting. And he's like, yeah, so good on stage. Like, ignored what I just said. And they're like, that's it. And Tim vowed to work with me every day, 100 hours in 1 week, and memorize
Jeez.
every word. And literally, I was like, he said to me, you bare your soul and you leave it on stage. And I was like, okay. And like every time I would rehearse it, and it's word for word that I memorized, you know, and it's not a recovery one. It takes you into the dark side of beauty and like what, you know, the filtered world we live in and stuff. And I would be drained every time, and I would I had the process of looking through every modeling photo I ever went through and what happened behind every shot. And I was like, oh my God, my father had just died, you know, 2 days prior, and they told me I had to go. So it was like going through so much trauma for 9 months of going through these things and dealing with it and with him and men around me, which was interesting that they're the ones that came up, you know, and then my therapist and stuff. And being able to go through it and then be drained and then go through it again. And I didn't want to take someone down a dark place. I needed to tell a story.
Yeah.
And Tim worked so hard with me.
You know,
and I
here's the
left
thing,
it,
though.
Hold on. And I went on stage and I left my soul on stage.
And
That's amazing.
It hits so. We were with an individual last night who's 35 years sober. Another one I talked to, they're showing it to their clients in treatment. Therapists are starting to share it. I did a TED Talk 3 years ago. I think it's got about 50,000 views on the opiate epidemic.
It's actually got more than that. 60.
Her TED Talk in 3 weeks has almost 100,000 views.
Jeez.
It's blowing through the roof, but it's another platform. And the thing with Jennifer and I is we are 1,000% transparent, and we talk about things a lot of people won't talk about, but we need to be truly authentic in what we do. So, you know, the speaking is blowing up. We both represent a Better Life Recovery and a Mission for Michael, which is a true mental health program. And we're kind of activists, and we speak and talk about that. We're both on the board of directors for the foundation I founded 6 years ago called a Man in Recovery Foundation.
Only woman on that board.
Yeah,
Just thought I'd let you
we
know.
guide and direct indigent people into treatment because my phone starts ringing at 5:30 in the morning.
While I'm sleeping.
And so we're doing that, and then
forget that.
we're in negotiations now for a reality-based TV show based on our lives and what we do and in the chaos, but keeping the balance, and it's awesome. I mean,
you guys are a true power couple. That's why you guys had a. You guys
yeah,
are just
we're a
doing
force,
it.
man,
It's-
and
Helping people too. That's the
That's
best
what it's
part.
all
That's
about.
why you guys are here. I mean,
And I'll truly say it's amazing. Like, and I say this with all sincerity. Like, Tim loves to help people. And people with, you know, he helps people get into treatment with no insurance. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, he doesn't care who the call is, where it's from, and people are reaching out to him. And like, I love that passion he has, you know, and where he knows where to put people or how to connect someone to get into somewhere else or state funded this and that, and to truly see someone really care about the individual and like really, it's not just program, 12-step based program. It's like they need to get detox, or they need to this, and to take the time and the hours and the other day on Friday night, he sat with someone for 10 hours to getting someone into treatment. That had nothing to do with him. It was just someone he
10
knew.
hours watching him drink a handle of vodka.
Andy Roy went to my buddy's rehab to speak. He brought you up many times, and that guy alone, if he can get sober, anybody can. And he had nothing but great things to say. You're an amazing person.
I truly love Andy Roy, and to see that he recently had a year sober.
But when you even get the emails from people like, "Hey man, I got 3 years," it's all teary-eyed, it really hits him.
I had a gentleman send me a message yesterday on Instagram. He happens to be in the treatment program we represent. But he said, "Hey, man, I've been here 2 weeks. I got my phone. I'm so-and-so's son. I just want to thank you." He said, "The past 2 weeks have been crazy, but this is the best decision and one of the best programs I've ever been to." I just want people to work on themselves so they can have a life of recovery and have what I have, and not go through the struggles and have to go to prison at 44 or make the bad decision. You know what? I'm going to hang myself in the psych ward because I'm in so much pain.
Yeah.
Put your hand up, ask for help. And a lot of people talk, a lot of people don't provide the actions. And, we're using the platforms of speaking, of TV, of this, social media to help people. And
all of us, all three of us.
It's
like, look at you.
Who would have ever thought, I think about all the people that we all know and the experiences we've all gone through, and that hopelessness that we've been in. And, you're like, you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You just don't, but maybe you see a flicker, or maybe that there's, who knows, but like that moment, and then you go, I just believe that they believe. At least that's what they told me, and I hold on to that. And we still do 12-step program, and we're very involved in that. Because we need to be for us.
The one thing we do, though, too, is, like Saturday mornings, I go to a stag meeting, all men. She, one day a week, goes to her female meetings, and we do some together. But her recovery's her recovery. My recovery's mine. But the bad thing about living with someone who's 14 years sober is she likes to, hey, you working on this? Did you call your sponsor about that? Hold on. But you know what? It's good because it keeps me accountable and grounded and humble and, just living life.
There's so much I want to talk about. I'm just so happy to be here with you. We're like on 100.
And you guys are a part of it. You have your own section now.
Yeah,
How's
I know.
that
The
going?
real, amazing.
A lot of people love that. It's rad.
Thank you. I love having the real. I love the whole Recovery Today family, Rob, you, all of us, Sherry. Like, it's such a blessing to, be able to share my experience or a story, of something that I've gone through and have a voice, and a platform, yet another voice.
It helps people.
It helps.
When you're in the grips of addiction, you need a little glimmer of hope. And if more people are open about it, and going back to Instagram.
Yes.
You said that. I talk about it so much on Instagram. Everyone's got a perfect life. You're not going to go on there and post about, I'm depressed, I want to shoot, I want to go fucking do drugs.
Right.
Everyone's got a perfect life, and that's dangerous.
Yeah.
So
it is dangerous, and that's part of my TED Talk, is this filtered world and like what society, filtered. Like my life, as a model, we didn't have like the filters. There was, a little bit tiny here and there airbrushing, but when I first started, it wasn't about that. And it says, I say like, has anything changed, since 30 years ago? No, it's gotten worse, because everyone has that filter and everyone's getting bullied and this and that, and everyone's happy. And it's like, I decided a year ago in 2018, I was going through dark times and I was talking about it. And I was posting, I'd post a sexy picture and I'm like, I have an eating disorder. And this is what my eating disorder did to me. And now I don't. And I've worked really hard at it, but this is what I felt like. Or I'm having a really tough day. And I came it clean this time last year on mental illness and that I suffer from depression.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a secret though. I can't even believe this happened. In the last year, I haven't gone in one day of a full depression. Now, I realized because of him, I have purpose and connection. Now I have a lot of therapy under my belt as well, that I've done a lot of work on myself. And I do have a tool bag of spiritual tools. However, when you find your purpose and your connection, and it takes a minute, it could take a few years, it could take a few hours, who knows, you find it really helps, and like to be able to say that I have not had one day of depression is a miracle. Because even at 10, 12, almost 13 years of sobriety, I would go into 3 days of depression, and I would be very honest about it. And to not have a full day is a miracle. Now, do I have mood swings? Absolutely.
Yes, got a lot of those. But it's good, and I finally found my inner happiness. And this is, I walked out of prison a little over 6 years ago. I never thought I'd be doing what I do. But the 28 years, 30 years, my active addiction in and out were my training ground for what I do today. And just give people a little bit of hope. I had a lady message me this long email this morning now. Her son in Chicago has got an open wound from shooting dope. None of the hospitals will take him because she said, quote unquote, he's a junkie. And he can't get into a treatment center because he has an open wound. I messaged a friend of ours that we had dinner with in Chicago 2 weeks ago. He's a high-end surgeon. Also runs a nonprofit. He's like, send him my way. I'll take care of him, and I'll get him weaned off on methadone. We'll wean him off there, and then we'll put him into treatment. That's what it works. So all we do is connect. That's all I do is connect people and let the journey take its place.
Saving lives, man.
I also want to say you're right about the filtered world, that Instagram world, social media, Facebook world. I thought it was very brave of you to come clean, and Amen. To talk about and I want to thank you and commend you for that.
Thank
you. You know your family, and we talked, we all talk together, on a private level and stuff. But we really love you, and we're just really proud that you've been able to be so honest and raw and real, because it's people like you and it's people like Tim and people like other people that we know that, like, the more honest you are about things, the more people can relate and the more you feel not alone.
Exactly. I mean, every time I'm like that, you don't get one bad comment or like, I can't believe you did that, because everybody deals with shit,
all day long.
But you don't see it on social media. So I think it's good to be open like that.
Yeah.
Well,
everybody deals with stuff. Yeah,
and it's disrupting the system and dropping the mask. And, the old analogy, you're as sick as your secrets.
Yeah, exactly.
And, it's just being transparent. And, hey, if you agree, great. If you don't, kick rocks with no shoes. And if you're going to say mean comments, they got a cool thing. Unfriend, block, delete.
Yeah.
Push on, move forward, because sometimes I would get caught up in it, and it's like, hold on. There's so many people that don't even use social media that know who you are, and they just you are. I don't know where that came from, but here's the reality of this. This event Jen and Tara did the other day. Afterwards, this young girl came up and had a couple friends. 12 years old. She's been sexually abused. She's a suicide survivor, and I think her mother died from an overdose. And this kid talks openly about bullying, why she attempted suicide due to her sexual trauma and all this. 12-year-old girl.
She has hundreds of
thousands of followers on Instagram.
She's very honest, open, and real. And the more schools we go into, just the other day, a couple of weeks ago, we were speaking in front of 2,500 kids, from 11-year-olds to 18-year-olds. That night, when we did a community event that night afterwards, and we got back to the hotel till 2:30 in the morning. The last person was an 11-year-old girl,
Lily.
2:30 in the morning, emailing me. I got over 800 messages from the kids that day. That was me, or thank you for talking about this or that, and I'm like, Lily, what are you doing up? A, this late. B, why don't your parents have your phone? And C, go to bed. She's like, they're not heard. They're not being heard today. And that's the sad part of this all. And, the more open, like, even again, I'll go back to the TED Talk. Like, I talk about having an abortion, because they told me I couldn't have it, and what that felt like, and how I've always wanted to be a mother of my own, have my own, bear my own children. And, they what they taught me, what society, they being they, is teaching you, you can't have a kid because it'll ruin your career. You can't be career. You can be sexually assaulted and don't talk about it. Like, I talk about that in my TED Talk. Like, and it's like, the more we have an open conversation about these things, the more you realize you're not alone, and again, I commend you for doing that. And to be able for us to go and talk to these kids, on a level like this, and, realize that these kids aren't being heard is like become one of our purposes,
it's heart-wrenching,
and to go and help them, or at least give them a glimpse of hope. And, that day at that school, the principal, for a week later, that day he stayed, never went home. He worked all day because kids were coming in, like, telling on each other or telling on themselves. And that whole week, they said it was 24 hours with kids, because we went in there and we were telling our stories.
We empowered them to ask for help. And that's what it's all about. But these are other things we speak on and do, is educating the educators. Last year I did a teachers conference to 1,000 teachers. They don't know what to do. These kids are coming for help. They have a guidance counselor. I've only spoken 2 schools in the country that have full-time substance abuse and a full-time mental health counselor. That's it. Jeez. So you got 2,500 students. You got 10 guidance counselors. Guidance counselor guides and directs you on your career. Or you want to go to college. You want to be like Scummy and ride motorcycles. You want to be a supermodel like Jen. You want to be Tim Ryan and water ski and cruise the world and lose half your ear. But but that's it, laughing too. We always leave the kids laughing, but it's really getting down to our entire system's broken. We don't focus on the negative. We focus on the positive, and what little solutions can we bring to make a positive change and a positive impact. That's it. Simple as that.
That's why you guys are my favorite couple.
Well, we love you.
You guys are doing so much positive stuff.
Thank you so
much.
Love
you guys.
We love you. We're so honored. We're so grateful that we're part of your family.
Yeah, and if you're interested in having Tim and Jen come speak, timandjennifer.org or abetterliferecovery.com. Have a great day.
I like that. That'll be in the article on this, because that's so you guys do everything, right? Before he closes out, schools, everything?
Schools, colleges, corporations, community events,
if people
rallies.
Want to get a hold of us and get a hold of Tim on...
You can, the best way is probably on Instagram, Tim Ryan Dope to Hope. That's my Facebook too, Tim Ryan Dope to Hope. And then on Twitter, it's A Man in Recovery.
Okay.
Don't ask.
And I'm Jennifer Gimenez, Gimenez, on all platforms.
And we answer all our messages. It gets overwhelming.
We love you.
Love you guys. Thank
Scummy,
you guys so
thank you,
much.
my brother. I love you.
We're out. Whoop. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you,
really
Scummy.
cool.
You're kind of amazing.